The guilt you feel isn't a sign that you're being selfish. It's actually a sign that you loved deeply. But here's what changes everything. The guilt permission isn't weakness, it's progress. Permission is actually one of the most courageous things you can do right now. Most dads feel guilty for wanting anything for themselves. Perhaps it's uninterrupted sleep or a moment alone, maybe some peace. But here's what nobody tells you: that guilt is actually stopping you from being the dad your kids want you to be or the partner you need to be right now. This video is for every dad who feels like he's supposed to want nothing except to bring back what he's lost. So let's start with something that might feel a little uncomfortable to hear. When you lose a child, there's an unspoken rule that emerges. It's not written down anywhere, but you feel it immediately. You're supposed to want nothing except to have your child back. Anything less feels like betrayal. Anything less feels like you didn't love them enough. I remember catching myself wanting a quick coffee one morning after my son Hashim died, and immediately the guilt hit. And at that moment, I thought, how dare I want something when my son is gone? How dare I want a moment of peace when he'll never have another day? Here's what the research tells us. The American Psychological Association found that 73% of grieving parents experience guilt about having moments of happiness or peace. That guilt comes from believing those moments mean they're moving too fast or not grieving properly. And that belief, it was destroying me from the inside. And it may be doing the same to you right now. Now, I want to tell you about a father I met who lost his teenage daughter about 3 years ago. For months after it happened, he wouldn't let himself want anything. Not a quiet coffee in the morning, not 8 hours of sleep at night, not even a day where he didn't think about her every 5 minutes. He thought that suffering was his way of staying loyal to her and her memory. He thought that if he stopped hurting, he was betraying her. But something happened that broke through that belief. His other two kids started pulling away from him. They needed a dad who could still be present, not a ghost going through the motions. They needed him to function, and he couldn't do that while he was drowning. The guilt you feel isn't a sign that you're being selfish. It's actually a sign that you loved deeply. But here's what changes everything. That guilt is based on a false belief. You see, I believed that wanting something for myself meant that I cared less about my son that I lost. That's not how grief works. That's not how love works either. Your capacity to want small things doesn't shrink your love. It doesn't diminish what you've lost. It just means you're still human, and humans have needs. So here's what I want you to do right now. Write down 3 things that you want. Not big things, just small things. A quiet morning, perhaps, or it may be some uninterrupted sleep. 30 minutes where nobody needs anything from you. Write them down without judgment. Don't need to explain them to anyone. Don't justify them to anyone. Just name them. And we'll come back to this later. Now, let me tell you why these small desires matter so much. Wanting small things doesn't mean you're moving on. It means you're surviving. And surviving is what your family needs from you right now. This isn't about forgetting. This isn't about leaving them behind. This is about staying alive enough to show up. A study from the Journal of Grief and Bereavement found something remarkable. Children of grieving parents who take care of their own basic needs, which is sleep, quiet moments, some peace, show 40% better emotional resistance than children whose parents neglect themselves. Think about that. Your kids don't need you to suffer. They need you to function. When you deny yourself some sleep and peace, they sense it. They feel it. Kids know when their parent is drowning. and they drown with them. I realize our conversation is focused on a dad losing his child, but to illustrate the impact of grief, I want to share the example of James, who lost his wife. For the first month after it happened, he didn't sleep properly. He didn't eat. He was punishing himself with exhaustion because he thought that's what grief required. His kids started acting out of school. They were angry. They were scared. Their mother was gone. And now their father was disappearing too. When James finally let himself sleep, eat, and take an hour out on a Sunday just to sit outside, something shifted. His kids, they calmed down. They didn't need their father to suffer. They needed their dad to function. They needed him to be present. Your small desires aren't luxuries, they're fuel. They're the things that keep you steady enough to show up for your kids, for your family. Every time you deny yourself these small things, you're not honoring your loss. You're making it harder to live. You're making it harder to be the dad, the husband or partner to the close loved ones in your life. You're making it harder to remember the child you lost clearly because you're too exhausted to hold anything but pain. Now, I want to talk about permission because this is where most grieving dads get stuck. You don't need to earn the right to want small things. Grief gives you that permission automatically. You just have to accept it. Psychologists at Harvard Medical School tracked grieving parents over a 2-year period, and they found that the ones who gave themselves permission to have those small moments of peace processed their grief 35% faster than those who resisted their own needs. Permission isn't weakness, it's progress. Permission is actually one of the most courageous things you can do right now. There's a father I know who lost his son in an accident. For a year, he wouldn't take a single day off work. He thought stopping meant giving up. He thought rest meant forgetting. He thought that if he slowed down, the grief would catch up and destroy him completely. Then his therapist asked him a question. She said, "If your son could see you now, would he want you to rest?" And he broke down. He realized his son would have hated seeing him like this. His son would have wanted him to live. The next week, he took Saturday off. He slept in. He drank coffee slowly on his porch. He didn't do anything productive. And for the first time since the accident, he felt he could breathe. Grief is heavy, but it's not your job to carry it every single second of every single day. You're allowed to put it down for 5 minutes. You're allowed to want a quiet morning. You're allowed to sleep without waking up to guilt. The child you lost wouldn't want you to suffer like this. So why are you making it a requirement for yourself? So I'd like you to say something out loud right now. Say, "I love them, and I'm allowed to want small things." And say it again. Feel how it lands in your chest. And if it doesn't feel true yet, that's okay. Keep saying it. Permission is something you give yourself, and it gets easier every time you claim it. Here's something that might shift how you think about this entirely. Those moments where you allow yourself peace aren't taking away from your grief, they're protecting it. They're actually honoring your loss in a way that suffering never will. Research from the University of Pennsylvania shows that grieving people who practice self compassion, include taking moments for themselves, maintain a clearer, more accurate memory of the child they lost. When you're exhausted and burned out, grief becomes distorted. It becomes blame and resentment instead of love. Your memories fade. The child you're grieving becomes a blur of pain instead of a real person you love. There's a dad who I spoke to recently who lost his daughter 5 years ago. He spent the first 2 years punishing himself with sleepless nights and constant work. He thought that's what a good father did. He thought That's how he honored his daughter. But something terrifying was happening. His memory of her started to fade. He couldn't remember the sound of her laugh. He couldn't see her face clearly anymore. It was like she was disappearing twice. Then he started taking small breaks. A quiet morning here, a walk alone there, a moment where he could just take a breath. And slowly, his memory came back sharper. He could hear her laugh again. He could see her face. The small moments of peace didn't erase her, they protected her memory. They kept her real. Honoring the child you've lost doesn't mean destroying yourself. It means staying alive enough to remember them clearly. It means being present enough for your family. It means building a life that includes both grief and peace. Both are possible. Both matter. Both honor the son or daughter you've lost. So let me ask you something. What would the child you're grieving want from you right now? Not what you think you should want, not what you think you deserve. What would they actually want? Think about that for a second. Really think about that. While you think about that, the reality is wanting things may still feel wrong. That guilt is still sitting there. So let's make this smaller. Let's make it safer. Let me give you 3 concrete ways to start. Step 1 is what I call the 5-minute boundary. So pick a time each day when you're not available. We're not talking about 5 hours or even 30 minutes, just 5 minutes when perhaps you're in the shower or in the car. For 5 minutes when nobody needs you, nobody can ask anything of you. Do this every day for a week. Notice how it feels. Notice what happens when you protect just 5 minutes of the day for yourself. Step 2 is this: name it. Don't apologize. When you want something small, stop explaining it to yourself. Don't say, I guess I deserve a quiet morning with guilt under your voice. Just say, I'm having a quiet morning. And that's it. No justification, no apology to your child, no explanation to anyone else. You're having a quiet moment, a quiet morning, period. And step 3 is the link to them. When you take a quiet moment, connect it to the child you're grieving. Maybe you think about them. Perhaps you want to talk to them. Or just maybe say their name. This isn't about moving on. This is keeping them close while you rest. This is honoring them by taking care of yourself. This is saying, I'm still here and I'm still yours and I'm going to keep living. Now, these aren't big changes, but they are the foundation. They are the permission. And once you give yourself permission, everything shifts. Your relationships with your close loved ones shift. Your ability to remember clearly shifts. Your capacity to carry grief without it crushing you completely shifts. So here's what I want you to do this week. Write down 3 small things you want. Not big goals, not big life goals, just moments of peace, like a quiet morning or some uninterrupted sleep. Allocate some time where you're not responsible for anyone else at that time. Write them down without guilt or explanation. Then pick one, just one, and schedule it into your calendar today. Not next month, today. Give yourself a specific time when you're going to have to do this small thing. And when guilt comes, and it will come, remember this: you're not betraying anyone. You're not moving on too fast. You're surviving. You're staying alive enough to honor the child you've lost. You're staying present enough for the people who still need you in your life. Now, that's not selfish. That's love. Now, before we wrap up, I want to say one more thing. Everything I've shared with you today, giving yourself permission, taking that 5-minute boundary, linking a quiet moment back to your child, it's easier when you're not doing it alone. One of the things grieving dads tell me again and again is that guilt didn't start to loosen until they sat with other dads, other grieving dads who understood their grief. It wasn't with a therapist, it wasn't in a support group full of people who didn't get what they were saying. It was just with other grieving dads. Dads who had also been standing in the kitchen at 6 a.m. in the morning wondering how to get through another day, wanting something without feeling like a traitor to their own child. And having been in the same situation as you, it's why I'm building the SDF community, StillDad Fathers, a private dads only space where there is no spotlighting, no forced sharing, just a small group of men who carry what you carry and who are learning slowly, quietly, how to stop punishing themselves for being human. So I've put together the founding waitlist right now. It's just dads who want to be part of a space where they can shape it right from the start. If this video spoke to something in you, if any of it felt true, then I invite you to join me. You'll find how to join the SDF waitlist in somewhere in the description below. And I want to say there is no pressure, there is no pitching. There's just a quiet next step if you are ready to take one.